The changes we want to make rarely happen because we're finally fed up with ourselves. Yesterday, I talked about how New Year's resolutions get kind of a bad rap these days. And I think it's because we're getting smarter. We finally figured out that beating ourselves up and setting unrealistic expectations or unsustainable goals rarely leads to lasting change. Real change takes place when we teach our bodies something new. And that's why I've shifted from white knuckling my achievements to embodied intention setting. And in today's video, I'm going to share a simple ritual that I use. I like to do this at least once a year where I write an intention on a stone, and that helps me anchor this in the body. We'll talk about how and why, rather than it just being something that I intellectualize. And this has been a very impactful way for me to do that. And 3 years ago, I started this practice of doing this as a workshop for the community. And I'll tell you a story about how that impacted one of the people that I ended up working with as a life coach as well. Today is day 34 of the Bedhead Chronicles. I'm Ashley Lauren, and a little over a month ago, decided I was going to start doing a daily video where I share activities, exercises, journal prompts, self-reflections that have really helped me to learn to live more authentically, feel safer in my body, and start showing up in the ways that I feel called to do. And it's my hopes that in doing this, that I somehow give you permission to do those things that are authentic to you and that are calling you as well. So let's talk about this ritual. And I haven't always done this in a ritualistic way. Several years ago, within the last decade, I wrote this on a stone, courage, and then on the back, I wrote the word resilience. And this was really important to me to do because I was really going through it. My ex-husband and I, we were pretty under-resourced as we were building a business together. And there were some hard days and nights at times. And then, of course, we bankrupted that business after 6 years and then went through divorce. So there were times I would sit and just hold this stone, sort of anchor into that sense of courage that I knew that I needed. And that led me to being resilient, which is how I consider myself to be today. And there was a year where confidence was really important to me. I wrote that on a really cool stone. I mean, come on, that stone was asking for a word like confident. And one of the things that's kind of neat if you do something like this is that you get this almost like catalog of life experiences that you can look back on over time, because you've got this little arrangement of stones with words that are very simple, but that have a lot of meaning. And I started doing these rituals in 2024, 2023, where at the beginning of the year, we would get together in community in a workshop and I'd bring stones for everybody to write on. And we'd do a singing bowl sound bath to where we're clearing our mind, slowing down that monkey brain, and just letting a word sort of arise or land, or perhaps someone comes in, they've already chosen the word. And then from that place, that more centered place, we choose our word, write it on the stone, and then we practice what that feels like in our body. So getting really centered and choosing a felt state that we want to cultivate so that when we see this stone again, it's sort of this center that we can return to, because we remember in our bodies what that feels like. And having that somatic memory, the internal emotional memory, gives us something deeper than our intellect to return to. And in the very first workshop that I did, the workshop was wrapping up. We had several people had shared what they wrote on their stone, but there was one person in particular who did not share and looked very um, emotional and on the brink of tears. And so, as things were quieting down and people were starting to disperse, I sat down beside him and I asked, just very gently and curiously, what he had written on his stone. And instead of replying, he just had his fist on his lap and he just turned over his hand. And on his white stone, he had written self love. And of course, I had no idea how profound that declaration and that intention was for him. He and I started working together. At the time, I was life coaching, and I got to know him and his story and how much just inner turmoil that he was in, and how much he actually felt that he hated himself. And over our course of working together, and then as the years went on, I have seen a completely different person emerge. And if you were to meet him today, you would not think of him as someone who doesn't love himself. He's really learned to embody self compassion and lives in a much lighter way now, and is always smiling and has the best hugs for friends and strangers alike. And it's really been beautiful to see that transformation. But for him, of course, every journey starts long before we make a decision. But for him, there was that pivotal moment in which he became self aware of his need for self love. And that became sort of a milestone for the journey that he started over the next few years. And it was an honor to be able to witness that and participate in that journey with him. So this can be really meaningful. And if it's something that you're considering doing, certainly we'd love for you to join us. If you're in the Northwest Arkansas area, we'll be doing this on January the 10th in Fayetteville, Arkansas. But more than likely, you're tuning in from somewhere else, and I recommend doing this yourself. So, you find your stone, whichever one it is. This is going to be my stone for this year. It's just pretty cool. Round on the top, flat on the bottom. I feel like that's a perfect place for a word, although it has to be a small word. So that's why I haven't fully decided on my word of the year yet, because I keep picking long words that won't fit on there. But I highly recommend finding a stone that is somewhat porous and it has a rough texture. So some stones can be pretty smooth and they don't really absorb the ink very well. I have tried this with metallic ink and that white paint ink and different colors. Like this one is blue and this one is red, but they don't always turn out all that well. This one I've had to rewrite many times because this type of stone has just sort of absorbed it. If it gets a little wet, it just kind of wipes off. What's been the most effective is to find something like sandstone and write on it with Sharpie. And then, this one I've had for so many years that I'll clean it up. And I use my best handwriting, try to make it kind of pretty. And then participants who have come to the workshops, they have told me that they put this on their bathroom vanity so that they see it each day. I've known people who carry it in their pocket or in their purse. I've been known to keep mine in my car so that I see it when I'm getting ready for work. That may not actually be a safe place to keep your stone, but that's what I've done. Last year's stone for me was just very simply be. And I loved finding just this little tiny stone to write that on because for me, it was about learning to embody myself. And this process of choosing your intention is not about fixing you, not about changing who you are, but it's about choosing that felt state in a centered way that you can return to again and again. Wherever you're taking this from something that's in your mind to something that you want to live into. And I have found that finding this state of feeling that I want to embody has been far more effective for me than just chasing an outcome or trying to get, I don't know, something external. And the beautiful thing is that the external things still happen. I still achieve things that I've set out to do, but I go about it in a way that feels very different. And really, sometimes aren't we just trying to uh, chase an outcome or get to a certain place because of how it makes us feel? I thought, why not reverse that? Why not start with the feeling as I work myself into whatever external place I think I need to be? And the cool thing is that once you're in that feeling state, gratitude, hope, peace, abundance, the need to chase those other things, it gets a lot less. That's not a very articulate way to put that. But feeling your way into what it is that you want to embody and who it is that you want to be a really beautiful and effective way to retrain your nervous system and rewire your neurobiology to live in that state. And so that the things that you then do from that embodied state take on a whole different meaning. And they still happen in the most beautiful ways, but now you're living from that state that you want to be in rather than chasing it by chasing a thing outside of yourself to try to feel the way that you want to feel. So, how do you want to feel this year? What is your word of the year? If you get a chance, I'd love for you to leave that in the comments. What is your word of the year, and what is the felt state that you actively want to cultivate this year?